How many have you forgiven today? Chapter 18, Part 2. Anon closes the door to the room and turns to face Blossom and the Griffin.
So, what brings you here?
Blossom jumps onto Anon's bed to get comfy, keeping a close eye on Gilda.
Well, I'm not your mother. Talk to him.
Gilda looks up at the creature before her. He certainly is taller than she remembers. Just looking up at him makes her feel odd, as most ponies are smaller than her. Not to mention that he's looking at her in a way that reminds her of a griffin. He's sizing her up, taking in all of her strengths and weaknesses. She can even see how his muscles are tense, ready to react in an instant if need be. She has no idea what this creature is, but his entire demeanor tells her that he's got his guard up. Not that she's looking for a fight.
I came to learn about what happened in Ponyville.
Anon is cautious, but what she asks interests him.
She wants to know about what happened in Ponyville?
He can only assume that she's talking about the elements thing, which is somewhat largely known, but some rural areas probably don't know of it.
Still, why does she want to know?
Why?
I have personal business with one of the elements. I need to know what happened.
Anon looks over at Blossom.
You didn't tell her?
She shrugs.
I thought it would mean a lot more coming from you.
Anon takes in a deep breath and slowly lets it out.
I have no time to relive the past. To be honest, I don't trust you. I've heard about the threats you've made and the commotion caused in my shop. What right do you have to ask for anything after having threatened my friends?
Gilda feels her beat click in frustration.
Just tell me and you'll never see me again.
Anon crosses his arms as he looks at this griffin.
Something isn't right here.
Blossom brought her to him for a reason. Blossom could have easily told her the story, yet she thought a more personal touch was best. As he looks the griffin in the eyes, he notices something vaguely familiar.
Tell me something.
Anon catches Gilda's attention.
Why are you sad?
Anon notices that flash of pain on her face.
Will you give me what I want if I tell you?
It'll improve your odds.
Fine.
Gilda sits on her rump.
It's complicated. So, let's start when I first went to flight school.
Gilda has a frown on her face as she finishes her story. Anon is just sitting there looking at her as he rubs his chin in thought.
Well, that was an interesting story,
he says.
So, the Great Rainbow Dash, Elements of Loyalty, ditched one of her childhood friends without even trying to talk to you?
Gilda clicks her beak again.
Yeah, that's about the long and short of it.
Well, for being the element of loyalty, she doesn't seem to know what that means.
Right?
Gilda shouts in frustration.
It was like all the years we spent together meant nothing to her. She had all these friends and I...
Gilda looks at the floor in a brief moment of sadness.
I wasn't worth keeping around. Maybe I was a jerk, but she didn't even care enough to find me after I left.
Anon can see how hurt she is by this. It's honestly a sad thing to hear, considering from her story they were pretty close friends.
So, you want to hear how Rainbow Dash was punished?
She locks eyes with Anon.
Yes.
He shrugs.
Well, I guess it's only right to share my story. Get comfy, because my story is a lot longer than yours.
Gilda sits down and Anon walks over to the bed where Blossom is. He sits beside her as she rests her head on his lap. He strokes her as he thinks over his story.
We'll start when I first met Rainbow.
Celestia sits in her throne, bored. A pile of paperwork beside her as she looks over all of the things submitted to her this morning. Taxes, building repairs, and so much more. The more she thinks about it, the more her mind drifts to Anon. He makes her days feel better just by being by her side. This paperwork would be less about work and more about chatting with him. He always put her mind at ease when he's around. She lets out a long sigh, her heart wincing. She misses him, even though he hasn't been gone for long.
What has you in a tough spot, sister?
Celestia looks up to see Luna standing there, a clear look of worry.
Just thinking about Anon. Yes, it seems he's all you think of these passing days. A thought I believe we share. I can't put my hoof on it, Luna. Just having him around makes my days feel brighter. I know he is a good friend, but something else is inside of me whenever he's around. Do you have any idea what it may be?
Luna looks at Celestia, surprised.
Do you feel as if your nerves are on end? Like an attack will come from the shadows? In a way, I guess. It's like a weight on my chest.
Luna nods.
Yes, that sounds correct. I thought it was simply an omen for danger.
Celestia shakes her head.
I do not think so.
Celestia looks a bit frustrated.
I have no idea what it is, Luna. When he's away, it's at its strongest, but whenever he's near, it's just as strong, but not as painful.
Luna is stumped too. She understands what her sister feels, as it's similar to how she feels, but she has no idea what it could be.
A mystery to me, Tia. I know not what this feeling bears on my barrel whenever Anon is around, but...
She lowers her head as she looks at her hooves for a moment.
I do not want it to go away. That is something I can agree with. It's comforting in a way, painful as it may be.
Luna nods.
Little will do good thinking of it. Not to mention that we will be seeing more of Anon on the morrow.
That thought is enough to lift the mood of both sisters.
Yes, knowing what comes brings me great joy. There are so many things I wish to show him, places I want to take him. Do you think he'd like going to the Griffin Kingdom?
Luna takes a second to think about that.
Well, as long as one of us is there, I'm sure he'd be fine. Do you wish to take him out of Equestria? Just a thought. There's much of this world that he has yet to see, and things I wish to experience alongside him. There are things I too dream about.
Luna gets that swell in her chest.
Things I wish to show Anon.
Celestia is about to respond, but the door to the throne room opens. Both sisters look over to see Cadence standing there. Luna shakes her thoughts as she turns away from her sister and starts walking towards the door.
I have things I need to attend to.
Luna stops briefly as she looks at Cadence.
Good to see you, Cadence. Good to see you too!
Luna walks out of the throne room, closing the door behind her. That talk about Anon has her chest feeling ready to burst. These feelings confuse her so, but it comforts her that her sister feels along the same line. Perhaps when they get free time, they can discuss in depth and try to solve these feelings.
Truly naive.
A voice whispers into Luna's mind. Luna waits for Nightmare Moon to say something else, but her mind falls silent. She decides to ignore whatever she was talking about and heads back to her room. There are many things she would like to take care of before the party. It's been a while since she's gotten a new dress, and she wants to look proper for this upcoming event. Anon is looking down at the griffin as she looks to the floor. She remained silent the entire time as he told his story, not once questioning a single thing he said. She just listened and waited until he was finished.
So there you have it. That's what happened in Ponyville. Not a pleasant story, but it happened.
Silence fills the room as Gilda just sits there, looking to the floor. Neither of them are moving.
Tell me your name.
Gilda asks.
Anon.
Without looking up, Gilda turns around, walks up, and opens the door.
I'm Gilda.
That's all she says as she walks out of the room. He can only sit there, looking at the door confused, just before looking down at Blossom.
That was interesting.
Very.
Blossom confirms.
So, what's gonna happen to her?
As long as she keeps her paws off you, then nothing. I'll be sure to report to Shining about her status so they don't keep hunting her.
Anon thinks over his interaction with this griffin. Oddly enough, only a single thought enters his mind.
She seems like a nice person.
Anon says.
You have a weird way of looking at things.
Blossom chuckles.
She is the griffin that threatened you, remember?
Yeah, I know.
He looks down at Blossom.
She just seems lost is all.
I got the same feeling. It probably hurts to have a longtime friends turn on you so easily.
Anon falls onto his back as he looks up at the ceiling.
That was exhausting.
Anon closes his eyes. Blossom nods.
As much as I'd like to snuggle up, I got work to do. See you later, stud.
Anon looks down to find Blossom is gone. He quickly looks around the room and doesn't spot her.
She's fast.
Anon rubs his face some just before he looks over at the clock on the wall.
Damn, I've been talking for a while.
However, before he leaves, he wants to pay a certain pony a visit. Anon raises his hand and snaps his fingers as he falls to sleep. Who'da frickin' thunk it? Seems like those two actually got along. For now anyways, but who knows what'll happen later on. But let's get on to our friendly donators. Top donators Cat-gjf, Zar630, J10Man, Only One Thing, Subaru Orion, and Iron Sky. Darkside, Raiden, Narwhals, Black Moonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin Rollins, Stu Hex, Sword Brother and Mordred, Omicron Library, Will, Chris, Twinkie, Ridesoul, Badass Waffle, Shadow Moon, Luigi88, Chancellor Crust, Big Smoke 369, and many more fantastic people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.